Did you know that there was a race of humans no taller than 3 feet that walked the earth relatively recently? I'm talking real Lord of the Rings type of shit. This is the story of Homo Floresiensis, the Hobbit people of Indonesia. These little fuckers were first discovered by a joint Indonesian-Australian research team looking for evidence of the early migration of Homo sapiens from Asia to Australia. They stumbled upon the remains of a small human in a cave in September 2003. Led by archaeologists Michael Morwood and Peter Brown, the bones were found in a cave on the Indonesian island of Flores. The cave was called Liangbua, which means cool cave. I picture 2 guys just sitting around, smoking a joint and saying, "What are we gonna call this place?" "How about Cool Cave?" "Dude, that's dope!" Researchers found remains that belonged to between 8 and 14 different bodies. Over 100 whole bones and fragments were recovered from the cave floor. On one of the bodies, they found enough bones to assemble a partial female skeleton about 30 years old. This one they labeled Liangbua 1, or LB1, and it was a top specimen, meaning this skeleton was going to be representative of the species. Big shoes to fill, which they'll have no problem with. This hobbit-like human lived about 80,000 years ago. When compiling the data from the human remains, they found that they dated from between 100,000 to 60,000 years ago. However, stone tools made by this species found in the area date all the way back to 190,000 years ago. These dates make them one of the recent surviving human species, along with the Neanderthals, Denisovans, and us, Homo sapiens. The Cool Cave is the only site where these Hobbit people have been found so far. As the remains are relatively young and unfossilized, researchers had hoped to find mitochondrial DNA. Then they could clone them, if they haven't already. Initially, they haven't been able to extract any DNA from the samples, but they're still trying. Give them enough time and they'll fuck around and find out. Interestingly, some of the much older finds have been made at the site of Mutton, about 43 miles further east on the same island. In 2016, scientists announced they had discovered the lower jaw and several teeth from at least one adult and possibly 2 children of what may be an early form of Homo Floresiensis. Experts are nearly positive that these humans are related to the mini-me population found in the Cool Cave. At the start of this millennium, most paleoanthropologists believed that only modern humans, Homo sapiens, had managed to travel beyond the Southeast Asian mainland toward New Guinea and Australia. Although Homo erectus, that big fucking lug, did reach Java, which is now an island, but it periodically connects to the mainland through a land bridge. Besides, saying primitive, archaic cavemen had watercraft capable of crossing the ocean was considered absolute bullshit. The discovery of Homo Floresiensis on the remote Indonesian island changed things dramatically. There are several mysteries surrounding this species that aren't fully understood. With this cryptid to classification type of discovery, there are a shit ton of questions. Like, how in the hell did they get to the island? What made them go extinct? exactly where do we put this little dude on the human family tree? The whole thing's fucked. Don't get me wrong, it's positively epic that they were discovered. It's like finding out you got a new relative. But it's been 21 years. Still not knowing where they came from, what finished them off, and where they belong on the evolutionary tree just doesn't fucking cut it. Come on, man. Do better. All right, let's try to figure this shit out, one at a time. How did they get on the island in the first place? The fact that Flores was never connected to the mainland by land bridges means that some form of water crossing was necessary to reach the island. If they had the ingenuity and materials, it's possible they could have built a ship or a big boat to do a little island hopping. But a ship to them would be like a big canoe to us. Maybe some ancient hobbits stowed away in another bigger hominid's boat. Or they just got swept out to sea by a typhoon and just floated over to the island on a pile of debris. Kind of like Gilligan's Island. Humans began using boats thousands of fucking years ago, with the earliest evidence of watercraft dating back to between 40,000 and 50,000 years ago. This is based on archaeological findings that show early humans used simple rafts or dugout canoes to travel across water, particularly when they first migrated to Australia from Southeast Asia. Stone tools found on the island of Flores show that an early form of Homo Floresiensis arrived there at least 700,000 years ago, about 650,000 years before humans started using boats. It's unknown how early humans got there, as the nearest island is 6 miles away, across some pretty fucking wicked water. In a nutshell, no conclusive evidence has been found to verify how the Hobbit people got to Flores. Okay, so what made them go extinct? Well, there's different schools of thought on this. One of the theories is the loss of their food source caused their demise. Changes in the availability of prey or other food sources could have had a significant impact on the survival of the hobbits. Fossil evidence shows that the stegodon, a small elephant species that was a primary food source for the hobbits, went extinct at nearly the same time as Homo Floresiensis. This could have drastically reduced the available food supply. Moreover, the extinction of other key species on Flores could have very well disrupted the food chain, leading to the end of Homo Floresiensis. However, hobbits had a diverse diet, and it's uncertain if the loss of a single prey would have been enough to cause their extinction. To add to the confusion, there is limited direct evidence of what Homo Floresiensis ate, making it difficult to confirm or deny this theory. Another hypothesis for their extinction was due to competition with modern humans. The arrival of Homo sapiens in Southeast Asia aligns with the period when Homo Floresiensis disappeared, suggesting possible interactions between the two species. Homo sapiens arrived 70,000 to 50,000 years ago. Homo Floresiensis went extinct 60,000 to 50,000 years ago. So yeah, that's pretty fucking possible. Modern humans are known to have outcompeted other hominin species, like the bigger Neanderthals in Europe. So it's definitely a possibility that a similar scenario played out on Flores. The problem is there is no direct evidence of contact or conflict between Homo sapiens and Homo floresiensis on Flores. And some folks argue that Homo floresiensis might have occupied completely different ecological niches, reducing the likelihood of direct competition or even contact with modern humans. The last theory is also the leading theory, and that is a significant volcanic eruption around 50,000 years ago led to the extinction of Homo floresiensis. The eruption would have caused massive environmental changes, such as ashfall, habitat destruction, and a drastic reduction in food supply, making it very difficult for the species to survive. Supporting evidence shows that geological studies have identified a major volcanic eruption on Flores around 50,000 years ago, which jives with the last known presence of Homo floresiensis. Layers of volcanic ash have been found in the archaeological layers associated with the extinction of the hobbits, suggesting a devastating environmental disruption. An examination of LB1 showed the body was not deliberately buried, but covered soon after death by fine sediments, while still partially fleshed. That sounds like volcanic dust to me. Well, on the flip side, while volcanic eruptions can cause local extinctions, it's unknown whether this eruption wiped out the entire species. Some species often survive shit shows like this, especially if the species are spread across various habitats. No direct evidence links the eruption specifically to the extinction of Homo floresiensis, but the speculative evidence is on fire, literally. Finally, where do these little bastards belong on the evolutionary tree? Scientists are all over the place on this one too. The first and most popular theory is that the Hobbit race evolved from the species Homo erectus. That's right, the same one we evolved from. As the theory goes, a population of Homo erectus got stranded on Flores 1 million years ago. There was no more genetic exchange with mainland hominins, and the large-bodied Homo erectus evolved to the smaller Homo floresiensis. Despite being much smaller, the body proportions of Homo floresiensis, like the limb length relative to body size, are similar to those of Homo erectus. The Hobbit's skull has the same shape as Homo erectus, except smaller. Both species share a relatively flat face, prominent brow ridges, and a similar overall skull shape, though on a smaller scale in Homo floresiensis. The team who discovered Homo floresiensis originally proposed that a population of the species Homo erectus traveled from Java to Flores by boat, and once on Flores, they got stranded and shrunk in size over hundreds of thousands of years due to natural selection. Honey, I shrunk the species! This is an example of insular dwarfism, also called island dwarfism, a process where large animals isolated on islands evolve smaller bodies because they have limited resources and no large predators to defend themselves against. Just like what happened to the stegodon, the pygmy elephants that weighed about 650 pounds that also inhabited the island. The hobbits enjoyed munching on them regularly. The timelines for Homo erectus and Homo floresiensis overlap, providing a plausible timeline for the evolutionary process. However, there are issues with this hypothesis. First, the degree of dwarfism that had to occur from Homo erectus to Homo floresiensis is a tough nut to crack. While island dwarfism is a known phenomenon, the extent of the size reduction in Homo floresiensis is much greater than typically observed in other species, raising questions about how quickly this process could occur. And lastly, there is a lack of intermediate fossils showing the clear transition from Homo erectus to Homo floresiensis on Flores or any nearby islands. The absence of these fossils makes it pretty fucking impossible to trace the evolutionary path with any kind of certainty. Another theory is that Homo floresiensis may have come from an early African dispersal by a primitive Homo species like Homo habilis or the Dmanisi hominins. Primitive traits like the wrist bones and the shape of the feet in Homo floresiensis don't look like Homo erectus bones at all. They resemble those of much earlier hominins like Homo habilis. This suggests that Homo floresiensis might have descended from a more primitive ancestor, or that it retained ancestral traits that Homo erectus had already lost. Despite its small size, the brain of Homo floresiensis shows some primitive features in its structure that are more similar to Homo habilis than to Homo erectus, which may support a lineage from an earlier hominin. If true, this earlier migration could have led to the evolution of Homo floresiensis in isolation on Flores or nearby regions. The stone tools found with Homo floresiensis are simple and consistent with the type of tools made by Homo habilis, suggesting technological continuity. The problems with this theory are hard to overcome, though. First, there is no evidence that Homo habilis left Africa during that timeline. Homo erectus was the first hominin to migrate out of Africa, so it doesn't track that Homo floresiensis evolved from Homo habilis. No fossils have been found that indicate a migration of Homo habilis to Southeast Asia. And, most importantly, there's a huge fucking time gap between the two species. Homo habilis lived between 2.3 and 1.65 million years ago, while Homo floresiensis existed 100,000 to 50,000 years ago. The huge-ass time gap between these species makes it damn near impossible to connect them directly without some intermediate forms that show gradual evolutionary changes. And lastly, some folks have said that they are simply Homo sapiens with some disease, like microcephaly, a developmental disorder of the brain that causes it to be much smaller than normal. Or that they were stricken with Laron syndrome, a disorder that results in pituitary dwarfism. But neither has been verified. In summary, the exact origins of Homo floresiensis continue to be a subject of ongoing research and debate. Seems like we're not getting fucking anywhere, don't it? Which is why I chose this topic. Not only is this about real, living, breathing, hobbit-sized humans, and I'm talking about a foot smaller than the pygmies that are currently scurrying around today. But furthermore, they go from a cryptid-like creature that people made jokes about to being confirmed by the scientific community with a genus and species classification. The cherry on top of this fantasy island is the whole discovery is riddled with questions and mystery. These furry little fuckers had similar characteristics with many different species of humans. First, as I've pretty well established, they were shorties, averaging about 3 feet 6 inches tall. They had a wide pelvis with hunched shoulders. They had very small brains, about the size of a chimpanzee. Even though they had a smaller brain, they had an enlarged area of the brain that helps with complex cognitive activities, which means they watch Jeopardy while doing a crossword puzzle. They have a small forehead, flat face, and brow ridges over each eye that do not form a continuous brow ridge, so not your typical caveman look. They have a narrow nose, and they don't have a bony point on their chin like modern humans. Their feet define their Hobbit nickname. Their foot was long compared to their body size, 70% as long as the thigh bone, compared with 55% for modern humans. They have no arches in their feet, an unusual low twist in the upper arm bone, wide and thick leg bones compared to the length. Their wrist bones differ significantly from those of modern humans and are more similar to African apes. They have relatively long arms and short legs. Their lifestyle was typical of early hominids of the day. Stone tools were found in a number of different layers from the cave floor. The tools unearthed include simple flakes, points, perforators, blades, and microblades. Some tools were found with the remains of LB1, but most of them were from the same location as the remains of the extinct pygmy elephant Stegodon. This suggests that Homo Floresiensis were hunting these small elephants. There's been some speculation that the stone tools associated with Homo Floresiensis were actually made by Homo sapiens. The basis for this is purely the belief that humans with such small brains couldn't make such sophisticated stone tools. But there is no other evidence in support of this. Analysis of the residues and polish on some of the tools revealed they were used for working wood and fibrous materials, perhaps to make spear shafts or traps. Evidence of cut marks on the Stegodon bones from the Cool Cave prove that Homo Floresiensis was at least hunting and eating this animal. There is evidence of the use of fire in the Cool Cave. The remains of numerous juvenile Stegodon have charred bones, indicating that the hobbits were able to control fire for cooking. There are no traces of pigments, ornaments, or deliberate burials in the layers associated with Homo Floresiensis in the cave. So they didn't give a shit about elaborate decorations or culture too much. Flores is a heavily forested tropical island with mountain peaks reaching over 6,500 feet above sea level. The environment during Homo Floresiensis time would have been similar to today. The nature of their environment and the limited food sources typical of island life provides strong clues to the evolution of these little guys. When a small population becomes separated, changes can occur very quickly and apparently did. This species shared the island with Stegodon, giant rats the size of adult rabbits, large 10 feet long Komodo dragons, and these creepy fucking 6-foot-tall pterodactyls called marabou stork. The Hobbit's lifestyle was pretty chill for the most part. One of the most compelling things I came away with while researching this was island dwarfism. Now, I know all about natural selection. Shit, when I see a video of someone getting stupidly hurt, I'm like, natural selection strikes again. Island dwarfism is a form of natural selection, only on a different scale. On an island with limited food, a smaller body size could be advantageous because smaller individuals require fewer calories to survive. Over time, natural selection would favor those who are smaller, leading to a decrease in average height across generations. If larger predators are absent or less of a threat on the island, there is less need for a larger body size as a defense mechanism. Smaller bodies lose heat more slowly in cold environments, which can be a selective advantage. Smaller individuals are better at finding mates, reproducing, and taking care of their offspring in the island environment. This could lead to a selection for smaller sizes. For a race of people to evolve from a 6-foot-tall person down to 3 feet 6 inches in 50,000 years is absolutely not the norm. It's certainly within the realm of possibility under the right environmental conditions. Dude, I'm just fucking mind blown. The other thing that I found 100% phenomenal was the possibility that they may have survived until recent times. Some researchers say that the hobbits could have lived as recently as 12,000 years ago, meaning they would have shared the earth with modern humans. This interesting overlap raises some intriguing questions about potential interactions between hobbits and Homo sapiens. Could they have exchanged knowledge? Or interbred with them? Shit, communication with them would have been a challenge enough. Even though we don't have all the answers, the existence of the Hobbit really shakes up what we know about human evolution. The survival and adaptations of Homo Floresiensis give us a look at the different evolutionary paths that have shaped not just them, but all of humanity. Their story shows how hominins take different routes when faced with environmental challenges. When we think about human evolution as a whole, Homo Floresiensis pretty much fucks up the idea of a straightforward, linear progression, highlighting just how wild and random our evolutionary history really is. Their existence is a reminder that the human family tree is way more intricate and branched than we ever imagined, with each branch offering new understandings into how resilient and adaptable we are as a species. So, what the hell have we learned from the tale of the Hobbit people, Homo Floresiensis? Well, they were definitely one of the most trippy chapters in the story of human evolution. These little fellas, standing only about 3.5 feet tall, managed to survive on the remote island of Flores for tens of thousands of years. Despite their small size, they were skilled tool makers, clever hunters, and tough survivors, adapting to their unique environment in ways that most of us can only imagine. Their discovery shook up the world of anthropology. Before Homo Floresiensis was found, we thought we had a pretty good handle on the timeline of human evolution. But these hobbits fucked up that idea, showing us that there was much more weirdness among our ancient relatives than we ever knew. It's not just about the big names like Homo sapiens or Homo erectus anymore. There's a whole cast of characters in our evolutionary story, each with its own set of unique traits and survival strategies. What's truly remarkable about Homo Floresiensis is how they challenge our understanding of what it means to be human. They remind us that human evolution didn't follow a straight path. Instead, it was more like a branching tree with different species adapting to their environments in different ways. Some, like the hobbits, managed to thrive in isolation, developing unusual qualities that helped them survive in their little specific corner of the cool cave. Their story demonstrates the flexibility of the human species. It's a humbling reminder that there's no single way to be human. Our ancestors were incredibly diverse, and their survival depended on their ability to adapt to all kinds of challenges. As we continue to explore our past, we'll keep looking deeper, always questioning what we think we know, and appreciate that we were the winners of the evolutionary race. If you dig this video, yes, pun intended, don't forget to tap that like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more of my bizarreness. And besides, I really do appreciate it. I've also got some fucking kick-ass merch. The link's down in the description. I've got Scarinator shirts and tanks. I've got Stay Creepy mugs, t-shirts, stickers, and all kinds of badass miscellaneous stuff. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you for watching and listening until the very end. You kicked total ass.